everything. It encompasses your car. It encompasses your house. It encompasses the food that goes in your mouth, even your spiritual food. Okay? All of that is encompassed. So let's get back to this. Restored relationship with the Father. Again, look at the story in Israel. I mean, in Exodus chapter 1. Look at the story of Israel in captivity in Egypt. Okay? That is a pure example of the bondage of sin. They wound up over there in Egypt because of the famine. I don't know if the Father sent them there or not. What I do know is that who was the boy that they loved to bring up? Abraham's son, Isaac. Isaac stayed in Gerar. Isaac stayed. Was it Gerar or was it Goshen? Isaac stayed. He didn't go to Egypt during the famine. The Father told him to stay put. He stayed put because the Father told him. So I don't know that the Father told the rest of Israel to go to Egypt. They just went because Joseph was there. But guess what? They got stuck there. They got content there. But they had a land. The Father promised them a land. He gave them their land, and they left their land to go to Egypt to get fed. Okay? And them staying there was the issue because they had a land. So when the famine is over, you take your behind back to where your house is. You don't stay, but they hung out and they began to wax great. Joseph died. And guess what? After Joseph died, here comes this other cat on the scene who didn't know Joseph, didn't know nothing about Israel, didn't give a flip about none of that. And he puts these cats in bondage because he's like, whoa, these people growing too great. They're too strong. It's too many of them. We got to put these jokers in bondage. Well, it had already been prophesied that they would be put in bondage. Why? Because they went into bondage because they started chasing after the Elohim. Exactly. They had always been chasing after these other Elohim. So now here they are in Egypt chasing more Elohim, chasing after everything but what the Father has given them. And guess what? They're in bondage. They wind up in bondage. Okay? So check that up. Check that out, because sin will sell you up the river. I remember Paul saying it like this: sin deceived me. This is Romans chapter 7, verse 10 and 11. He said, and the commandment which was ordained to life, in other words, this law which was meant to give me life, it was speaking the truth. Okay? I found to be unto death. It killed me. It put me in a position of death. For sin taking occasion by the commandment deceived me. See, sin is deceptive. This is the same situation that Eve faced in the garden. Sin is deceptive. That serpent beguiled her. He utterly tricked her. You know, she's thinking, well, if I eat this, then nothing's going to happen, because he's saying, yeah, you know, Yahweh, I know him. We go way back. You know, what he's saying is blah, blah, blah. Well, see, when you got a third party in your relationship with the Father, you'll never be free from sin, because you'll only take their information that they're giving you about this person that you're supposed to be in relationship with. Well, if it's your relationship, guess who needs to be doing the seeking and searching out what that person likes and what that person loves? You do. Okay? He said, for sin taking occasion by the commandment deceived me, and by it slew me. Okay? We talked a little bit about lying preachers, the difference between the sent ones and the went ones. Y'all know how I feel about that. The message is not the same. Those who are sent of the Father feed the sheep what he's commanded us to feed the sheep, because they're not our sheep. They're his sheep. So he's the provider for the sheep, and we give you what the Father has given us. Those who are not sent but are the went ones, they give you what they want to give you. They give you all this stuff that makes you feel good and that tickles your flesh, tickles your ears. You know, it's the junk food. It's the stuff that you ain't got no business eating, because it'll kill you, because you have no nourishment. Okay. Let's go on down. We talked about Paul. We talked about Romans chapter 7, because that needed to be discussed. There are a lot of people who use this scripture as a foundation to live in sin. And I'm telling you flat out, Paul was not talking about giving you an occasion to sin. He's specifically dealing with his state in his flesh, just according to the law. Because remember, he was not only a Jew, he was let me just say it like that. He was a Jew. He was also a Roman, but we're not talking about his Roman citizenship. We're talking about his status as a Jew. Okay? As a Jew, he had to follow the law. So he's talking about this law that he followed prior to salvation. See, Paul did receive salvation and was converted. But this in chapter 7 is discussing his state in his flesh. And in verse 18, it is very clear what he's talking about. He said, for I know that in me, that is in my flesh. See how it's clarified there? Dwelleth no good thing. For to will is present with me, but how to perform that which is good, I find not. He's dealing with his fleshly state. He's not dealing with his spiritual status after salvation. Okay. So that whole chapter 7, what I would that I do not, all that stuff, what I hate that I do, that he's not giving you a license to sin. He's not saying that he's confused about anything. He's talking about his former state as it pertained to the law that was given. Okay. In chapter 8, it sums it all up and saying there is therefore now no condemnation to them that are in Yahushua the Messiah, who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. So there is no condemnation. There is no, let me look up this word condemnation for you and give you a clear definition of that word so that you're very clear. There is no disapproval or let's see here. I want to find the word condemnation. Well, to condemn means to express complete disapproval of. Okay. To find guilty of a criminal act or wrong. All right. To sentence to a particular punishment. So we can say there is therefore now sentencing or guilt of criminal act to them that are in Yahushua the Messiah, who walk not after the flesh, but after the spirit. Well, why is there no guilt or no criminal act that is sentenced here? Because you don't have to walk in sin either. You can be free from that. Okay. For the law of the spirit of life in the Messiah, the Messiah Yahushua hath made me free from the law of sin and death. For what the law could not do, in that it was weak through the flesh. What is this talking about? The law didn't purify their flesh. The law was just a letter for them to follow. But now, when we accept the Father through the Son, when we have salvation, now we have this other law working in our members. We're walking in the Spirit now. We're not fulfilling the lust of the flesh. We're not going after those things that the flesh desires. Okay? So, I want to go to verse 10 in Romans chapter 8. And if the Messiah be in you, the body is dead because of sin. Well, what does dead mean? It means it has no life. That means your flesh is dead because of sin. But the spirit is life because of righteousness. So, okay, if the body is dead because of sin and the spirit comes in, now it's alive again. The spirit gives life. So there's a death that has to take place, but the spirit renews the life. So that's a different vitality. That's a different vigor. It's not this life of sin. It's this life of righteousness. Okay. But if the spirit of him, okay, I got that. But if the spirit of him that raised up Yahushua from the dead dwell in ye, he that raised up the Messiah from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his spirit that dwelleth in you. I am on verse 12 of Romans 8. Therefore, brethren, we are debtors not to the flesh to live after the flesh. For if ye live after the flesh, ye shall die. But if ye through the spirit do mortify the deeds, kill the deeds of the body, ye shall live. For as many as are led by the Spirit of Yahweh, they are the sons of Yahweh. For ye have not received the spirit of bondage again to fear, but ye have received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of Yahweh. Well, how do we know that we're the children of Yahweh? Because his seed is in us. And because every seed reproduces after its own kind, now we are restored back to that place that he originally created us to be in. And now we can have absolute fellowship with him. Okay? Romans chapter 3, verses 19 through 26. Now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith to them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped and all the world may become guilty before Yahweh. Therefore, by the deeds of the law, there shall no flesh be justified. The law didn't justify flesh. Okay? Faith is what justified Abraham. Faith is what justified Noah. Faith is what justified